Topo Athletic is committed to lifelong health and better movement. Topo builds running shoes for those who get out there every day regardless of weather, speed, energy, or mood. Their distinctive fit and feel combines instinctive human movement with modern performance and lightweight comfort to help you keep going, keep trying, and keep moving. Discover the Topo difference and step into a run experience unlike any other. Hey everybody, welcome to Fireside Chat episode number 93. We are going to have a returning guest. One of our community leaders is going to be joining us. Her name is Adina O'Neill. She is the founder and owner, and I believe she might even go by head coach for Team Be Real. This month, February, happens to be her anniversary. I believe it's her 3rd year anniversary of Team Be Real. So we're really excited to get caught back up with Adina on what has transpired in her business from the beginning to today, what her future ideas for the coaching that she has going on with various athletes from across the country. And then we're just going to end up having some fun at the end like we always do with some fabulous food questions since we're all endurance athletes and we love to eat. So with that, without further ado, I'll have Om bring Adina in from backstage.
Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Look at us. We're like professionals.
You guys are fancy.
We almost know what we're doing.
Almost.
Well, we have to practice this even more though. If we get a sponsor for the Fireside Chat, they're going to want this to be spot on.
I think you guys are pretty slick.
Awesome. Hey, for those of you that are following us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, or Instagram, if you have questions for Adina, type them in. We'll be able to see them. We'll be able to relay them to Adina and get your questions answered. So during the introduction, Adina, I mentioned that this is your February is the 3rd anniversary of Team Be Real, and we want to celebrate that. So tell us, one, how you got started and what you're doing this month to celebrate your 3-year anniversary.
Yeah, well, thanks. I'm excited to be here and celebrate with you guys. You've been a great support to the team and some of the athletes as well, and myself personally, both as an athlete and as an entrepreneur. So it's always fun to come and hang out with you guys. The team itself started, back kind of, I was off just a long swim one day and the ideas were flowing in my head. And I had this idea to start my own team, just with the idea in mind that not everybody feels like they fit in to the quote unquote typical endurance world. I was a triathlete and there's great energy, the events are fun, but there really is a feeling by a lot of athletes that sometimes they just don't feel like they fit in. The kind of people who maybe were not athletes in growing up, or who maybe are some marginalized groups, for myself as being a larger bodied athlete, a shorter person, a female sometimes, and I've heard from other communities, minorities, different ethnicities, the LGBTQ community. There's a lot of, marginalized groups that just kind of don't feel like they fit in. And maybe not in a specific race or a specific environment, but just kind of that feeling in general, like, am I going to fit in? Knowing that I felt that way myself and some people who I had spoken with felt that way, I said, well, what if I made my own team, a place that I can make sure that people fit in, knowing that, I have that lens and that experience of what it feels like to be on the receiving end of not fitting in, and really make that effort so that way everybody feels like they fit in. And I said, if I'm feeling this way, probably somebody else is. And I knew other people were, just from discussions that I had been having. And, people say, wow, you're such an inspiration because you're doing this and you're doing that despite all this other stuff. And I said, well, I'm just being myself. I'm just being real. Yes, I came up with this crazy idea to start my own team and really mold it in a way that everybody would be welcome. I am a triathlon coach. I'm a certified coach. So they'd have access to a coach. especially for newer athletes who kind of don't know where to start and maybe wouldn't work with a one-on-one coach because it's pricey. So to have an affordable option where you can get resources and have your questions answered and just have a group of people where you can connect with in a safe space where, it's okay if you're training for an Ironman as much as it's okay if you're training for a 5K run. Whatever goal you're training for should be celebrated because that's your goal.
So let me ask you this. So you had this entrepreneurial concept, this dream, this vision. We've been talking to a lot of entrepreneurs in the last month as we're doing a series on how entrepreneurship helps endurance sports and endurance sports helps entrepreneurship. So how do you see the Venn diagram in terms of endurance sports and entrepreneurship, and how has one helped you with the other?
Well, if the Venn diagram is two circles like this, the connection is like this, right? And there's a really thin line that's only endurance sports or only entrepreneurship. The parallels are almost endless. On a regular basis, pretty much everything that I've learned through endurance sports, because I was an endurance athlete before an entrepreneur, but pretty much everything that I've learned through endurance sports has been applicable to being an entrepreneur. The ups and downs, staying motivated, the long-term motivation, the naysayers, the feeling like you don't know what you're doing, it's very trendy right now, the imposter syndrome, like, oh, I don't belong, who's going to believe me? So
I gotta interrupt you. I don't think it's a trend as much as it's a reality. As we were talking before when you were backstage, like in today's world, everything is a square full of unicorns and rainbows, and it's like, man, I'm not doing enough because I see Suzanne in Sarasota, Florida is doing this, and it's like it's a real thing. Like I'm in the midst of typing up an article about me dealing with imposter syndrome on a daily basis and how sometimes it's incapacitating, where it's like I don't want to do something because I don't think I'm good enough to do it. It's really, really hard. Oh my! Before we go back to Adina on the question, I want to ask you that same question. This entrepreneurship journey for you is literally just started, 18 months ago. How do you see the Venn diagram of entrepreneurship and endurance sports?
I think that they both complement each other and that they overlap in so many ways. I think that the intangible skills that you learn in endurance sports apply to making you a better entrepreneur. And I think vice versa. Some of the things I've dealt with and growing as an entrepreneur has actually made me a better endurance athlete. And so I think the two of them are like wolves that feed off each other and just energies that feed off each other. And I'm just trying to kind of view it that way. But to your point, like, I think I deal with imposter syndrome in all spectrums of the Venn diagram, where it's like, am I an athlete? Am I a good entrepreneur? Am I a good mix of both? So I think that they complement each other very well.
So Adina, one lesson, just one, that you've gotten from endurance sports that you apply to entrepreneurship. What's one thing that you would be able to point to and be like, yeah, this is the thing that has probably helped me the most?
I'd have to say, and not just because it kind of is the point of my team, but maybe that's where it came from, is just you really have to follow your own path. So, a lot of entrepreneurs, when you see them from outside, right, they're doing all the things all the time. Like it's a big hustle and you have to go, 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 go all the time and do all the things. And that was really overwhelming for me. That like, I can't tell you how many times I spoke to some peer groups that I'm in. It was like, I'm just done with this. This is not for me. I can't live this life. And it wasn't until the time that, I kind of applied that same thing that I teach all my athletes and remind all my athletes that, hey, this is your journey. This is, you decide what your goals are. You decide what speed you're going. You decide what success looks like for you. And when I kind of applied that to myself as an entrepreneur, it took some of the pressure off. Like, nobody knew, like, I had a project that I was supposed to be finished last Wednesday and have this big launch, and it wasn't ready. And at first I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. It wasn't ready on time. It's the middle of our birthday celebration. It's supposed to be happening now. And you get, because you set these deadlines and it's important to you. But at the same time, I was just like, this is not going right. Oh my gosh. And you feel like you failed somewhere along the way. But then you have to find that, okay, well, what did I learn from it? Or, well, first of all, nobody else even knew that it was happening. I am not one of those good, breadcrumbers like, oh, something big is coming. Oh, I suck at that. I'm like, I let the cat out of the bag. If I know something, either I say it or I don't talk about it because I'm just not good at that. And that's fine. Like,
Yep.
that's how, I'm running my business, how it works for me.
Yep.
And that really, and that really, I'm going to say, is only, maybe 6 months that I've really embraced that and say, like, it's okay for me to go slow, for me to only do one project at a time, where other people are doing 12. I'm doing all these things. That's wonderful. But that's not me. So really just bringing that concept of, the same things, endurance athlete, you choose what your goal is, what you want to work on, and how you want to get there. Not everybody has to be fast or first, and the same thing with being an entrepreneur. It's, you don't have to do all the things. And you can do it the way that you want to. I'm not very fancy. I get things done. I make mistakes all over the place. That's the good thing about having a brand that's called Be Real, right? If I mess up, I'm like, that's all right. Like, I'm on brand.
For those of you that are just joining us, we're chatting with Adina O'Neill of Team Be Real. If you've got questions or comments, put them in there. We will see them during the conversation and we'll bring them up to Adina. I'm going to put this on you again. So Adina talked about endurance sports into entrepreneurship. What about entrepreneurship into endurance sports? Only one lesson. Like, don't be like Brittany, who gives me all kinds of different answers to the question. Like, you have one answer. What's the one answer?
For Brittany.
Oh, like one takeaway that I would have from it.
Yeah.
Easy. The willingness and ability to fail forward. Because I think that if you're not able, for every success that maybe Run Try Bike has had, we've had as individuals, and Team Be Real has had, I guarantee, like Adina was saying right now with the projects, there are a bunch of little failures that nobody even knows about. Like, it's funny that you bring up the project, because I've had conversations with Jason where I'm like, I feel like we have to do this. We have to do this. We have to do this. And he's like, look, go sit on a park bench for 2 hours. The business is not going to blow up and explode and set on fire if you go away for 2 hours and take a break. Have grace.
One of the things I learned years ago, especially because we're in sales and marketing, and I've spent my entire career here, is that literally 0 people die if the ad doesn't run. Like, literally 0, right? I remember I was about 24, 25 years old, and I told my assistant, because he was getting flabbergasted that a TV station in Pittsburgh wasn't running our commercials. And I'm like, Mike, understand this, that literally 0 people have died because that commercial didn't run. It's okay. Like, we'll figure it out. It's a little extra work, but not a big deal. So I want to then ask you this, Adina, as a coach, you're dealing with human beings on a daily basis. People have good days, people have bad days, people have great days, people have miserable days. As a coach, how do you take an approach? Because you're an individual dealing with multiple people. What's your approach when they come to you and they're like, this has been really, really hard or really, really rough? How do you deal with that from the human side of it all?
Well, many people would say that I put way too much time and effort into my athletes, into my team. I've been accused many of time of saying, you care too much, or it's, that's, you're going so far beyond what a coach should be doing for their athlete. And that's, that's, again, that's me. I can't partially care about someone. There's kind of levels. I mean, I work with some athletes one-on-one, and I work with other athletes on the team. So Team Be Real is a community, and it's group coaching. So I really have to work at setting the boundaries of what that means. So for example, sometimes, I mean, a lot of the people are on my team, right? They can message me privately on Instagram or on Facebook and things like that. And when we've met up in person, some of them have my cell phone numbers because we've met in person, and that's how you connect when you're like at a race. You're not messaging through Messenger. And so it's really on me to set the boundaries, to say, if someone's asking me triathlon or endurance questions, if they're asking me for professional advice in a private message, and they're on the team, I really, and it's on me to do it, is I have to say, hey, you know what, please go ask that question in the group. And so that, then I can still give all that I want to give. But the whole point of group coaching is that if Ohm is on the team and he sends me a question and I answer him, and then Jason's on the team and he sends me the same question and I answer him, so that's not group coaching, right? That's private coaching. But if Ohm asked me a question and say, hey, go put that in the group, and then I answered in the group, now Jason gets the benefit of that question and everybody else in the group gets the benefit of that question. And that's kind of the beauty of group coaching. So that's something that that really, that's on me to set those boundaries. But then I also have just the respect for people that some things are private, and you're not going to put them, even in it is a very safe space, and I talk about anything, and you ask anybody on Team Be Real, they'll tell you it is a judgment-free zone, and you can ask anything and no one is going to say anything anyway. But there are things that are private.
Right.
So if someone came to me with a private concern that affects them, I can't say no. I mean, what am I be like? Please go schedule a call with me. Like, it doesn't feel right for me. Like, so again, like, that's not who I am as a business person. That is, so that's, in my opinion, that's going above and beyond. That's the connection that exists. And if someone is that comfortable that they're going to share something so personal with me, I'm going to give them a little bit of my time. But when it's a one-on-one, I like the one-on-one coaching because, I'm in constant contact with those athletes, and that's great because you really get to know someone very well. I mean, we're in contact pretty much every single day, and you really get to know someone. And there's not really as many boundaries. Like, I don't have to set boundaries, I guess. I probably still put more time and effort into many other compared to other coaches, because, if my athletes ask me a question, I'm going to explain everything to them because I want them to know. It's not just, oh, here's an answer, oh,
Right.
I didn't get to do this. Should I do this today or tomorrow? Like, some coaches will just be like, do it tomorrow. And I'll be like, well, do it tomorrow, but pay attention to this and that and the other thing. Like, I want them to understand why they're doing it tomorrow instead of 2 days from now. So that's that.
Gotcha.
It's the teacher in me. Like, I spent 10 years teaching second graders, and I want people are gonna feel better about what they're doing if they understand while they're doing it. Like, that's what teaching is.
So let me ask you this, for group coaching, since you're one of the only, you might be the only coach I know who actually does like consistent group coaching like this and has like a community built around it. One of the things we started with was talking about people finding a community. So how do you feel that the group coaching that you've created fosters that sense of community?
It has exceeded my expectations. to hear, this is a crazy time. Like February becomes such an exciting month for me because I spend the entire month celebrating the team and gathering stories and telling stories and hearing back from the teammates, so that I can share their stories, and to hear the things that they're saying, and to hear them, every single one of them saying, it feels like a family where it's a judgment free place. We know it's a safe place. I finally feel like I belong or I'm part of something. And it's beyond my expectations, and Jason at the beginning used the word, "Lo, it was my dream, my vision." Like, I didn't have a dream or vision. Yeah, I was just like, hey, let's start a team. Like, and that's the great thing about being an entrepreneur. Like, you can just do it. It's not easy, and it's
No.
taken me a long time to get here. People say, "Oh, wow, you have this great team." Okay, the team's 3 years old, but I've been, building up to it for at least 5 years. But to hear that people like me, or how I felt, are now finding that they have a space where they can belong. And more people, I think when I started, I felt like, oh, it's going to be a space for all the slow, short, fat people, like, because that's me, right? And everyone says, oh, you attract people who are like you. And the funny thing is, everyone on the team is like me. Everybody has something that they're overcoming. It may be body weight, it may be body image, it may be pace, it may be their sexual orientation or sexual identity. It could be their religion. There are so many. Everybody has something that they're overcoming, and that's how, like me, what the actual thing is kind of irrelevant. Everyone has something that they're kind of, that's kind of their elephant in the, what is that? Not, oh, skeleton in the closet. No, the elephant doesn't fit.
Be a big closet if it was an elephant.
That's right.
That'd be a
In the closet.
big closet.
Yeah. So everybody kind of, hey, we've all got baggage, right? And we've
Absolutely.
all suffered adversity, and you don't know what people have suffered. Like, you don't know. Like, to look at any of the three of us, you don't know what we've, even though we've shared, all three of us have shared on social media challenges we've had in our life. We've had other challenges that we haven't shared.
Absolutely.
Like, nobody airs all their dirty laundry. There's everybody's got a little bit of privacy. But it blows my mind that I have been able to reach those people. And even though in some ways they are so much like me, the one thing that I do find is different is I'm very loud and boisterous, and very few of the people, of my teammates, are loud and boisterous. There's a couple, but they tend to be more, I don't know how to explain it even. It's kind of, they're just a little more quiet, a little more reserved. And my interpretation is that, they're looking to me to be their voice. And I've never been shy. I've never been quiet, ever since, first grade, ever since first grade, on that report card, talks too much in class, every single time. And I always thought that was a bad thing. And now I'm like, you know what? It isn't a bad thing at all. Like, it's a very, very good thing. And I'm going to keep being loud and keep talking, and for anybody who maybe isn't comfortable enough to do so.
So last year, your team went to the 70.3 at Jones Beach.
Yeah.
Are you guys planning on attending an event this year as a team?
We are. It just kind of came up a little bit spontaneously. We had a couple of ideas, and we didn't get a lot of traction on it. And then one day it just came up. We're heading to Rock Hall, Maryland. There's an event there called the Rock Hall Triathlon Festival by Kinetic Sports. And it's the first weekend of June 1st and 2nd. They've got a sprint and an Olympic, and they have options to do aqua bikes and relays. And so we've already gathered like 10 of our team, 10 or 11 teammates who are going to go down. Some of us are going to do an individual event. Some of us are going to do team relay events. Some of us are going to do both, a couple of volunteers. Yeah, so we've got that. And then a bunch of us are heading to, I had signed up for Swim to the Moon, which is a swim festival out in Michigan. One of our teammates lived nearby, so she was going. And then a couple other people said, oh, I'm going to go to that. I'm going to go to that. So those will be two big events that will have a good presence there.
What does it mean to you as the head of the company and the head coach, shall we say, to have these types of events where teammates from, I'm assuming, across the country are gathering to meet up and connect with each other in a more personal manner than, again, the small square on Instagram or video on TikTok?
Well, it is, I mean, the in-person connection is you can't replicate that other than being in person. I mean, you can't hug somebody. Like, I'd like to hug you guys right now, but I can't hug you through the screen. But I will say that we met up at Jones Beach, and I went down, my husband and I went. There was one other teammate who I knew in advance. And the other people I've only known online. And I rented a house, that's part of, for me, the important thing is like, I'm making it accessible for them. So I rented an Airbnb, and everybody could come and stay with us. And these people, they all came to stay in this Airbnb. We're staying under the same roof. We don't know each other. I mean, but we know each other.
Right.
Because we have a private Facebook group where we interact all the time. And we meet on Wednesdays. We have a group, a team workout. On Saturdays, we have a group ride that is open to everybody other than just the team. And so, one of the members, Letty, she actually came from Arizona. And she said that, she was talking to her husband before, and was like, all right, I've never met these people before. I wonder what it's going to be like. And he's just like, all right, well, whatever. It's like, call me and if there's a problem. And she walked in and she's like, oh my gosh, these are my people. Like, but we know each other. We already know each other. It was such a seamless transition from the online interaction, because we've built this honest and real relationship within the group already.
Now, there's in the ultra endurance world and the events that I do, there's this sense of like, you get together for these events, you build a bond with these people, and then when you leave, you feel almost a sense of like you're leaving your tribe. Do you see similar things happening, and closeness of people in the Be Real community coming together at these events in real time? And does it always feel a bit like a bummer when you have to go your separate ways?
Yes and no. It definitely was a bummer that we had to leave, but as you said, it just strengthened our connection. And so now we have, for the people who were able to come, we have even a more in-depth connection. Like, we know more about each other. We spent 48 hours in the same house together, and there were some silly things that happened, which we won't repeat. But you make the bond even stronger. So for me, that was something that I had been thinking about for a couple of years. Like, it took a while for that to come together, to get the retreat together. And it was really special. So now we're working on trying to plan out farther in advance. And we have a lot of people on the East Coast. So the East Coast was easy, and it's a little more convenient for everybody. So we're trying to plan for 2025 to have that date on the books, so hopefully more people can reserve it. Because I don't want it to be, the people who don't live on the East Coast to feel like they don't belong, right? they don't fit in because, oh, well, they're all the way over there, and
Yep.
they shouldn't have the burden to always be traveling.
Right.
So next year we're going to try to go to where we've got our eyes on a race in Arizona.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Hi, Nancy. Thanks for joining us. Nancy's one of our favorites. She always joins in on our fireside chats and has great comments.
Oh yeah,
So
I met Nancy at a retreat for endurance women in endurance sports who are entrepreneurs.
This is at an endurance exchange with the Feisty Triathlon, Feisty Media.
It was called the Outspoken Summit. It was last
Oh,
year.
okay.
But it was by it was Feisty's. They had a standalone event last year, and this year it was connected with the Endurance Exchange. But yeah, Nancy and I met last year at Outspoken. She's awesome.
Yeah, she's really cool. So oddly enough, 3 years apart from each other, I was asked the same question in February, so I'm going to ask it to you. John from Blue 70 and Michael from Firstborn asked me this exact question 3 years apart, probably to the day, which was scary. But they asked me, with the business as an entrepreneur, and so you as an entrepreneur with your business, what's the end game? So you're building a community, you've got athletes from across the country, you're looking to get people together in different parts of the country to race together and connect with each other. What's the end game for you? What do you hope to have happen so that when you close the business, whether you sell it, whether you're done with it and retired or whatever else, you can say, I accomplished that?
Well, if it closed tomorrow, I already have an extreme sense of accomplishment. And that's something that has been a learning process for me, because as with entrepreneurs, everyone's like, oh, well, I'm this figure business and I made this much money and all this other stuff. And I really learned to redefine what success means. So if Team Be Real ended tomorrow, it's a success. The women who we've brought together, all the athletes who I've coached privately, they've all moved forward, and that's why I would say keep moving forward. But where I'd like to see it go, I've chatted with a couple people in Australia and New Zealand and Canada and the UK, and I'd love to replicate this community in those other areas. And I think the trick and we even see it here in the US between East Coast and West Coast with the time difference. The trick is how do you manage the time difference? I think it would be tricky to have, one meeting where everybody could conveniently make the time. I would need to do a little math for that. But I don't see why you couldn't have, little pods where we've got a nucleus in Boston and maybe a nucleus in, like I said, Australia, and then in the UK, but that you have these kind of hubs, and maybe have, kind of like how you guys have started with the community leaders, like that kind of idea, that you have one person who's kind of like the spokesperson that I can work with and, kind of groom to do that, because I know there's a need. I've spoken with people on Instagram and that have said, yeah, like we need that, oh, our tri club is great, but it's just not the same. They don't get that people can be different sizes, or our, it's something special. It's, and I'm always one to say, like, you're allowed to be proud of yourself and what you've got. It's not bragging.
That's
and
right.
I think what we have at Team Be Real is very special. And it took me a while to kind of say it and really be proud of it, because people are always accusing you of bragging. It's like, but you know what? It was something that was needed. And, the number of people who have gotten something out of it already is awesome. And hopefully we can keep reaching more people and help more people feel like they fit in.
Yeah, I think that's the key. I mean, obviously, when we launched our business, the idea was, to prove that there is a spot at the starting line for everybody and everybody. And we've recently adopted the mantra of being the voice of the everyday athlete. And I think that one of the things that we encounter, I'd be interested to hear your take on it with the individuals that you talk to for your team, is Ohm gets this all the time, and he's very good at telling people your story matters, and encouraging them to tell their story through our platform.
Right.
And so for you, like when you're in the middle of having a conversation with a potential athlete, do you have that obstacle that you have to overcome to encourage them to join the team, where they're like, yeah, but I'm not fast, or I'm not strong, or I don't run 100 miles, or I don't do Ironman, where they're always feels like they're, stopping their own progress before they even start their own progress?
So I think by the time someone actually has a conversation with me, they know me well enough that that's not a discussion. Like I don't think that's ever been a discussion with anyone who I've ever had a conversation with. Just people watch it for a while, they listen, and I'm also, like I'm very present and I'm very outspoken, so people know what I stand for, right? It's pretty obvious. I've never had someone's like, well, how do you feel about this? Like everybody knows how I feel. Like I've told you all. So I don't think that's ever been part of an initial conversation, but it does come up quite frequently within the group, right? Lots of reminders that, people saying, well, I just did a sprint triathlon, or I just did a 5K. And I work a lot of like, let's watch our vocabulary. Like I'm a second grade teacher, right? I'm like, let's watch our vocabulary. How are we going to talk about this? And really just try to, and I do it myself because I often refer to myself as a slower swimmer. And it's an identifier, like compared to other swimmers, my pace is slower. But anytime you use some of those descriptors, it can sound like you're devaluing yourself, right? And that's not what we want. It's like, oh, I did a sprint triathlon. I did a this, I did a that. I did a 15-minute mile. That was awesome. You don't have to say that was awesome for me. It was awesome. You did a 15-minute mile. Who cares? So it definitely comes up over and over and over again, with everybody, with a lot of people. So yeah, so I think that maybe not like an initial conversation, but it definitely it's a recurring theme that we all need reminders. Myself included. And my friend who I swim with all the time was like, oh my gosh, I'm swimming so slow. She's like, you're not swimming slow. She's like, you're fine. Like I've got the ice swim coming up in 2 weeks. I'm all worried about, am I going to make the time cut off?
Right.
Because that's a thing, and she's talking me off the ledge. Like, well, you're going to do what you're going to do. And if you don't make the time cut off, you're going to do 150 instead of 200. Like, what's the big deal? Like, still
Right.
freaking awesome.
That's exactly
So,
right.
So it's and I get it back from the teammates as well, that they love to be like, Adina, what do you always tell us? And they throw back your advice. I was like, okay, I take it, I like it.
Cool. So if people are interested in working with you, where can they find you? Website, Instagram, TikTok, where?
So I have a TikTok account, but I'm never on TikTok. Instagram and Facebook, I'm all the time on, well, all the time. I am very present on Instagram and Facebook. And my website is teambereal.com.
And that's without an asterisk, correct?
Right. Just Team Be Real. Yeah. You can't make the fun little like sun and waves emoji as part of the thing. So it's just all one word.
Awesome. We just put the link up on our video so that when people come to it tomorrow or a week from now, they'll be able to see it. For those of you that are just joining us, this will be on Instagram within about 30 minutes after the show ends. It will be on our website on a week from Friday. So I think that's the 26th, if I'm doing my math correctly. 23rd. So it'll be on our website.
It's in my mind.
It'll be on our website and our YouTube channel on the 23rd on Friday. So look for it there. So Adina, are you ready for our wonderful round of food questions?
Yeah. I've been looking forward to this all day. And I have to tell you, I thought about you guys because I was in the grocery store. I saw a whole display of Peeps.
Yeah. I was at the drugstore yesterday and I saw all the Peeps there too, and I walked right past them all. So
it's way too early for me to be purchasing them, but because it doesn't take very long for them to get stale. It takes like a day or two. So
still the oddest answer I think we've gotten when it comes to Peeps. Like multiple people are like, "Oh, you should eat them stale." And I'm like,
I have to of Jason eating the stale Peep. That is glorious.
Is there any other food in this world that you would recommend eating stale? Honestly, think about it, right? When you get bread that's stale, you're like, I'm not eating this shit.
No. Yeah. No, I can't.
Oh my God. Who was it that last week said stale Cheez-Its?
Oh yeah.
No, Marcy. Marcy said that. It was a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah. It's stale goldfish or something. Yeah.
I love people's food taste. So awesome. So we're on the topic of candy. Top 3 candy choices are?
My top 3 candy choices?
The top 3 candy choices.
Only 3. Peanut butter cups, Twix, I'm on a Rolo kick, so I'll say Rolo. I love caramel, so
all chocolate, no Smarties, no Skittles.
Well, they're not in the top 3, but I like those too.
Hey, that's okay. I did a top 10 list where the guy interviewed me, Kyle White, for his top 10 podcast. It was like top 10 candy. And when I responded with, I think it was Skittles, he was like, "Oh, okay, at least you got the assignment. It wasn't top 10 chocolate candy." So
I think when I don't see in my head, I heard candy bar. Although Rolos are not a candy bar, so that's irrelevant. But
like we told Cheryl last week when the Food Fight Friday was top candy bar, she said, "What's a caramello?" And I had to tell her it's basically the bar version of Rolos. Like Rolos are little individual circles. Caramello is like the bar version of Rolos.
Although I will say that caramel is creamier than the Rolo.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
But it's not the same. I love caramel. Actually, a nice salted caramel. I should have put that in my top 3. I love like a good salted caramel.
Yes.
Yeah, that's.
McFunt is letting us know that they love Peeps because they're crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside. And Lint Balls are one of their top candies. And then Nancy says stale Cheez-Its work, which I'm not sure I agree with her at this point. Like, again, nobody's like, "Oh, give me more stale crackers." Like, that's not a thing. No.
Like Cammy, that's Cammy, MCP. That's Cammy. She's a good friend of mine and a longtime Team Be Real supporter. She's awesome. Peeps. That's right, Cammy.
Cammy's a Toblerone fan too.
Oh yeah, Toblerone.
So pineapple on pizza is big around our parts. Yes or no? You can go either way. The answer only is yes. But what about pineapple on a burger?
No.
Pineapple on chicken, grilled chicken.
No, just pineapple. You just eat it plain.
That's it?
In a mojito. Put it in a mojito and I'm with you. Pineapple mojito, pineapple margarita. I'm there. Pineapple is not supposed to be warm.
We're a little bit past the season, but pumpkin spice or apple cider?
Well, I do not like pumpkin spice at all. So I don't do pumpkin anything. I don't like pumpkin anything. And I will drink apple cider, but I don't like a lot of apple cidery flavored things. I'm not really a big fan of either.
Savory or sweet? You can only eat one for the rest of your life. What are you choosing?
That's a really hard one to ask of a woman in the menopause transition because you need both. They have to counteract each other.
No, you can't pull a Britney here. You have to pick one.
Until you are a woman in menopause, you cannot have.
These are my rules. Yeah. These are my rules on our show. You have to pick one.
All right. Well, I'd have to go for sweet.
Sweet for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Wow. Man, I couldn't do it. I'd have to have savory. Like, I just think about eggplant parm. Like, I just like not being able to eat that ever again would be a bit rough.
Yeah.
Chocolate chip or oatmeal raisin cookie?
Oh, chocolate chip.
Are raisins a yay or nay in your life?
I like plain raisins. I don't like them in things. Like, I like a trail mix.
There you go.
Raisins in a trail mix, but not raisins in like cakes or. I will eat an oatmeal raisin cookie, but I prefer oatmeal with butterscotch chips. That's
Oh,
the
mix it.
classic. When I was a kid and we had a snowstorm, my brothers are older than I am, so my dad and my brothers would go shovel the snow, and my mom and my sister and I would make the paychecks, and it was oatmeal with butterscotch chips.
Preference: egg salad, tuna salad, or potato salad?
Not potato salad. I'm going to do it Jason style. Not potato salad.
Eliminate them.
Elimination, exactly. Probably egg salad. Probably egg salad.
Last question: soft serve flavor, chocolate or vanilla?
Twist.
No, I only gave you two choices.
But then have you been to a place that never offers you the twist?
That's not the way this game works.
Vanilla. Jason's like a hard ass.
You gotta love that wafer cone, right? That wafer cone is so good on the soft serve too. It's so good.
Yeah. Not vanilla, dipped in cherry.
Cherry.
If you
Oh,
can find it.
does the cherry harden, or does it stay soft?
Cherry dip? Wait a minute. Haven't you
Never
ever
had
been
it.
to Dairy Queen?
Chocolate dip for sure, but never cherry dip.
Wait a minute. You're from New York. You've never been to Dairy Queen?
Yeah, but Dairy Queen, I never had cherry dip. Always chocolate dip. Never thought of cherry dip.
Cherry dip and butterscotch dip too. Although butterscotch dip, I don't know if they stopped it. They might have brought it back. I don't remember. I would need to check.
I gotta find my way to a DQ.
Oh,
Adina,
yeah.
Adina, thank you so much for your time. Thank you very much for doing what you do for the Run Try Bike community. And congratulations on celebrating your 3rd year with Team Be Real. That is fantastic. Congratulations. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to hang out with you guys. We'll have to work on the inclusivity of the questions on the food.
Nope. I want people to make decisions.
That's fair. That is fair. I will. I like that because I sometimes can be a waffler on decisions. So
have a great night, and everybody, thank you for joining us.
All right, take it easy.
Bye.